All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Hakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders at Great Millstone who rule well and have taught us this 100% truth. Much peace and blessings be unto you, hopeful. He let out the Mishnah, this word of all truth and sincerity. To all you, Achim, I do say Shalom. I am the Achim coming in with a quick lesson going into something Confucius said, the Moabite Confucius, right? And this excerpt is found in the book entitled The Way of the Samurai, a book by Inaz Nitove, which Inaz Nitove is an Ammonite educator, agricultural economist, and diplomat, circa 1862 to 1933. He was also a political science and whatnot. I don't care. But in the book, The Way of the Samurai, it defines the moral code of the samurai known as Bushido for a Western audience, exploring virtues like justice, courage, honor, and loyalty alongside brutal traditions like Arakiri, and remains influential in understanding Japanese culture. Now I really don't care. But, as the men of the Lord, starting off with the apostles and elders at Great Millstone, have, from time to time made the mention. There is nuggets of wisdom to be found throughout, right? And you must have the spirit to be able to discern right from wrong, separating the truth from the lies, right? Separating the bones from the meat, the bones being the lies, the meat being the truth. And we being a spiritual people, the Achim always found, using the spirit analogies which are heavy and can be, used in their day-to-day life, right? Or something that applies to the scriptures, something conditional because there's a relation to it. And that's why I'm doing this lesson, the quote by Confucius, because it's conditional to that of the scriptures, right? It states, Confucius said, "Let but a prince cultivate virtue, people will flock to him. With people will come lands. Lands will bring forth for him wealth. Wealth will give him the benefit of the right uses. Virtue is a root and wealth an outcome. Again, never has there been a case of sovereign loving benevolence, and the people not loving righteousness." And that is freaking heavy. And the first verse that came to mind was the book of Proverbs, the 22nd chapter, verse 4, which reads, "By humility and the fear of the Lord are riches and honor, and what? Life. Right. So with that being said, first comes, with that first comes virtue. Virtue, what is virtue? A quick Google definition. It's goodness, behavior showing high moral standards to what? The virtues found in the scriptures. Or the laws found in the scriptures. A virtue is, a moral standard, right? And what is our moral standard? The law. Is it not written in the book of Psalms 147 that we have been given, this as a heritage? Yea, the nation of Israel has been given this, and we are the mediators out of all nations of the human, the human species. We have been chosen to be the mediators of his divinity, right? Psalms 147, verse 19. He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. And why mention Jacob and then, put Israel? Are they distinct? No. They're interchangeable with each other. Because, sure, Jacob, is an individual, but wasn't his name changed to Israel in the latter? I tell thee, yea. So really, when it makes the mention of Jacob and Israel in this psalm, it pertains to the nation that came out of his loins. right? And we got various names that are interchanged between each other. Jacob, Israel, Zion, daughter of Zion, Jeshurun, right? Jerusalem, New Jerusalem, Samaria, Judah, right? The sheep, etc. The sons of God, right? That comes to mind. We have a lot of titles. Hell, going back to Confucius' statement, the prince, we're princes, we're king, we're royal people, right? Royal priesthood, kings, priests. We have Revelation 1 and 7, if I am not mistaken, or was it 1 and 5 or 6? He hath made us kings and priests. We're also lords, or will be lords, will be judges. Gods, Psalms 82 and 6, right? Was it Psalms 82? I have said ye are gods. Yahweh Shai even quoted that, saying it is written in the law, ye are gods. And that's not blasphemy. It is not blasphemy to refer to the Israelites as gods. What is blasphemy, though, is likening Esau Edom to such, and you actually have some mofo freaking magtards out here talking about Trump is like the Lord, Trump is like mofo, Trump, no, not like the Lord, dude. What's it called? If there's any association between the two, is that the Lord's gonna destroy Esau Edom, whom what's it called? The king, if you will, the trumpet guy descends from. And what comes to mind is Isaiah the 5th chapter. Assyrian, the rod of mine anger. And we could interpret, Assyrian in this instance to the Edomite, Esau, the rod of mine anger. The rod of whose anger? The Lord's anger. And, a rod, a scepter, a freaking sword. A rod of anger is used to chastise, to punish. And that's what, Esau's been selected for, to chastise, punish, afflict. The word afflict, as a matter of fact, that's actually in the book of Revelation, the 6th chapter. It is written, Revelation 6 and 4, and there went out another horse that was red. And, these horses, they ain't talking about little freaking horses of different colors, Now, unicorns don't exist. When a unicorn is mentioned in the scriptures, it pertains to a rhino. Now, that's the thing. I mean, you could argue that, it's possible that there's an actual species on a different planet that's a unicorn species, because as the scriptures make the mention, we have only seen a few of the Lord's works. Therefore, things that come from our human creativity, things we imagine, like sometimes I hope I see a flying stingray, those could be hints at works that have been made manifest, Therefore, there could be actual flying stingrays. There could be freaking, unicorns on a different planet. All right? But not on this side. Not on this earth. There's no recorded, documented species, though there could be on a different planet. When you're getting into it, deep into it, but I digress. Ain't talking about no freaking flying horse in this chapter. More so, it's a metaphor. Or I wouldn't say metaphor, more so a figure of speech. And who's it referring to in this case? The big E, the big E, Esau Edom. The big sleaze. And there went out another horse that was red. And red, why? Because, this mofo is red. And that ties back to the book of Genesis, the 25th chapter, verse 25. Which I will pull out if only my interface lets me. Okay, because it's been glitching. Okay, Genesis 25 and 25. Actually, verse 24. And when our days to be delivered, who is that her, Rebekah, were fulfilled? Behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau Edom. Or not Edom, it's just Esau, verbatim. But, Esau is Edom, and that's proven in the 30th chapter. Or 25th chapter, verse 30, 25th chapter. Verse 30, and Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. But then when you jump down to Genesis 36 and 1, it reads, now these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. And in 36 and 8, thus dwelt Esau on Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. And 36 and 9, and these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites in Mount Seir. And so on. From that point forward, they're known as Edomites to this day. Not Esauites, no, Edomites. Just like how we're not known as Jacobites. No, we're known as Israelites. Which, Jacobite is an actual term, but it pertains to, it's mostly a recent term, for a rebellion, if I'm mistaken. Jacobitism staged a series of rebellions in Scotland in the 18th century, attempting to overthrow the ruling house of Hanover and restore the House of Stuart to the British throne. So it's, recent history. But, Israelites is an ancient, lineage, which still exists, though Esau scholars deny it. But we all know for a fact he's just covering that up to save his own skin. And, it's no wonder as to why the Apocrypha, meaning hidden, was actually hidden. But I digress. Verse 25, Genesis 25 and 25. The first came out red all over like an hairy garment. Red, red, red. Lacking melanin, dude. Okay. Okay, going back to, or is it pigmentation? Yeah, that's what confused me. Melanin. Let's do search melanin versus pigmentation. Melanin is a specific type of pigment, a substance that produces color produced by cells called melanocytes, responsible for determining skin, hair, and eye color. While pigment is a general term for any coloring matter, melanin is the primary pigment in humans, acting as a UV protective shield. And we know that Esau is basically allergic to the sun. It's no wonder as to why he has to wear sunscreen all the time. But it's not. It's not a lie that Esau does try and tan. He likes to be like the nations with color. And that was a prominent thing, several decades ago, especially along the coast, part of that beach culture. And you also do got terrorists, right? You may find an Israelite-looking person's a freaking Edomite through the spirit, right? Because he goes back to the spirit, bloodline, as a spirit. As the elder apostle Tahar made the mention, and he used the analogy of our forefather Abel, who was an incarnation of, Jacob himself. Incarnation, right? Because we know reincarnation is a thing, pursuant to various precepts like Ecclesiastes 1 and 9, which comes to mind. What's it called? It makes mention how, or the Lord makes mention how, thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground, the roughly paraphrase. And blood, blood literally can't, cry. It's just blood. Blood has life, but it has no ability to speak. It has no vocal cords, nothing. Really, it was talking about the spirit, Abel's spirit. And the spirit, it's life. It's what gives power, energy. Right, so it was really the spirit that bewailed. I digress. So it's a bloodline. It's the spirit and blood interchangeable. Also that verse going into how the spirit beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. Right, to really paraphrase. Anyways, I digress. Back to the lesson. Back to the lesson. So Confucius said, let but a prince cultivate virtue. Virtue I made the mention, the law is our virtues. Right, so first comes virtue, humility, and with the law, to keep the law is to serve the Lord, and therefore you're being humbled down, subservient to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Right, Romans the 6th chapter makes that plain. You have been freed from being servants of sin, and now you're servants of righteousness' sake. Roughly paraphrase. So through this humility, right, which is the law, comes, I'm going to pull out the verse again, riches, honor, and life. Right. And also a precept that comes to mind regarding that is, let me pull it out. Bingo. It is the book of Psalms 37:4. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Right? The humbled down, repent, humble down, and serve Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is to delight yourself in him. Right? Delight in the good tidings. Yahweh Shai, his son, came down, and spoke about. Came down for and spoke about. Right? And the good tidings are for the Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Else, why would, the first epistle or the first book of the New Testament be the Epistle of James? In the first verse of said first chapter of that book be unto the 12 tribes scattered abroad, which also defeats, Esau's, historical interpretation of how the Northern Kingdom doesn't exist. They do exist, and I am living proof. I wouldn't be here talking if it weren't for the fact that I still exist. Right? And also, you have the Asherite spoken about New Testament, no? I think I recall that. Pull it out. Okay, right, this is the book of Luke, the 2nd chapter, verse 36. And there was one, Anna, a prophetess, the daughter of Phanuel of the tribe of Asher. Asher, right? She was of a great age and had lived with a husband 7 years from her virginity. Right, now, that term prophetess, as we've known, doesn't mean, an actual woman prophet, right? The scriptures make the mention now, my tabernacle is with the sons of men. That's in Revelation 21. And in Proverbs 8:4 makes the mention, how unto you, O men, I call. Who calls unto us? Wisdom. And as is written in the book of Sirach, the 1st chapter, wisdom cometh from the Lord. All wisdom cometh from the Lord. And isn't wisdom a composition of knowledge and understanding? Well, what did it say, I believe, in 1 Samuel? I believe it was. The Lord is the power of knowledge. The Lord is a God of knowledge. So, putting two and two together, like puzzle pieces, as it's written, that piece of being about precept. So putting these puzzle pieces together, what does that basically make the mention? Or what does it basically say? Well, the remainder is that only men are the prophets. And that's why there ain't no freaking, no books of a certain prophetess. Yeah, sure, you got what's it called, the book of Susanna and the book of Judith. It don't talk about them going to the highways and hedges and prophesying. The freaking scriptures made the mention, the apostle Paul made the mention, as if not a woman to teach. So anytime I know, what's it called, a legit female prophet, no. And same thing with, what's it called, the prophetess sister from the book of Judges, Deborah. She wasn't an actual prophet. But as we have been taught and learned, and as we learn from the men of the Lord at GMS, at Great Millstone, that term prophetess pertains to the wife of a prophet. What comes to mind was, I believe it was Isaiah's wife that was mentioned as a prophetess. I'll pull down the search bar. Right, Isaiah 8:3. And I went into the prophetess, and she conceived and bare a son. Then said the Lord to me, call his name Maher Shalal Hashbaz, which obviously is a corrupt, a form of what the actual word is. Because that's that modern Hebrew, shite. Whereas we know, the phonetic way GMS pronounces their words. It's the true, ancient, righteous way. Hey, seek ye the old paths. Old is synonymous with the word ancient. Seek ye the ancient paths. And that's what we're here to do. And what encompasses that is the phonetics. So, Abba, Gadaha. Not freaking Alep. It's Alap. Not Aleph. Not Bet. No, it's Ba. It's not Goyim, it's Goyam. What's it called? Mofo, small half, can't even freaking pronounce it right. They're talking about Goy slop. Mofo, ain't no Goy slop, you mean Goyam slop? And even then, what's it called? Most of that food is targeted at Jake. Like, you mean what's it called? Jake slop? But then again, you could argue that, 2/3 are likened to the heathen, so therefore, they account for that. Why? Because they deny this truth and, keep into the customs they've been raised by, the customs of the heathen. The customs of the heathen. I digress. Okay, I'm really getting off track here. But Luke 2:36 makes a mention how, Anna was of the tribe of Asher, therefore it still exists. And I'm pretty sure, don't get me, don't take my word for it. I'm just what's it called, a teaching. I'm pretty sure I saw it in a freaking poster, right? The 12 tribe chart. But then again, who am I, right? Obviously that's humor. Okay, that's an actual tribe, an actual people, still here. Again, Proverbs 22:4. Riches, honor, and life. Riches, honor, and life. And that's the reward that's given unto you by keeping the law. That's the safest way to do it. Right? Yeah, because, I lost my train of thought. I wanted to pull out, I forget how I was going to segue into it. I had a whole transition thing I wanted to talk about. But another precept that comes to mind is James 4. James 4, I believe it was. Yeah, verse 1. From whence come wars and fighting among you? Come they not hence, even of your lusts that warn your members. And so on. Right, so, whereas our war is spiritual war, mental battle, what's it called? Rehearse the righteous acts and hope to be delivered. That's a terrible analogy. No, the reason why I pull out this precept, if I can remember correctly, is because, you got, what's it called, the heathen out here. They out here for the rewards. They out here for the riches, honor, and life. The only way to get it is by freaking, what's it called, pillaging, rape, rob, murder. And that's Esau's whole freaking, that's his whole model. That's his slogan. Oh, I forgot. I was still reading, what's it called, Revelation 6 and that fits perfectly. I didn't finish it. I keep freaking, getting distracted. This Salachia. Anyways, Revelation 6:4. And power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, that they shall kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword, right? Because he's here to take the peace away. Right. And you see right now, his whole endeavor is to take full control, establish a digital ID. Which, James 9:24 did make that mention. How was it called? To the wicked is given the earth is given to the hand of the wicked, Salachia. Right, and that's where you have that whole beef with the Street of Hormuz. Where you have, what's it called, Nero himself out here. What's it called? On X, talk about formerly Twitter, right? Talking about, who freaking nuke you? Who nuke you if you don't freaking, what's it called? Open up. What's it called? The whole point is to freaking establish a digital ID. Which will lead to that MOTB, that Earthid type, if you will, right? Which is, the prophecy. And we all know the outcome to taking that. We ain't gonna take it. Hell no. What's it called? I be having dreams, or I be, what's it called? Given two options, an ultimatum. Either take it, or what's it called? Suffer the consequences of not taking it. So I'm like, I'm not taking that crap, and I always suffer the consequences in said dreams. I can't even speak right now, Salahia. Hell no. What's it called? It's so ingrained in my mind out here. I'm out here dreaming it. I'm out here dreaming my freaking, what's it called? Thoughts. Anyways, time back to Proverbs 22:4. Riches, honor, and life. So then comes increase, provision, honor, and influence. Right? Increase, provision, honor, and influence. And, precepts come to mind with that. Increase definitely reminds me of a precept going into how we shall be multiplied. And I'm going to pull it out first. Another precept came to mind, but I'll pull it after this one. Genesis 22:27 reads, wait, what? Go share it with me. I don't think Genesis 22. Oh, yeah, it is 22. Verse 17. I'm out here thinking it's 27. There ain't no 27. It's freaking 17, right? I'm going to pull out, actually, Genesis 32. Yeah, Genesis 32. Right, is this the right precept? Okay, Genesis 32:17. 12, right? And thou saidest, thou wilt surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which can not be numbered for multitude. All right. Another precept. Deuteronomy, the 1st chapter, verse 10. The Lord your power hath multiplied you, and behold, ye are this day as the stars of heaven for multitude. Right? So when it made the mention now, when the Lord spoke to Abraham, talking about, out of thy loins shall be, what's it called, a multitude as the stars of heaven, and what's it called, the sand of the sea, roughly paraphrase. It wasn't pertaining to Ishmael. Ishmael's it's a great nation, right? And it's, what's it called, and, Esau is also a great nation. But the greatest nation, and great as in multitude, as in increase, as in length, has been our people, the nation of Israel. It is the biggest people on earth, and it will continue to be the biggest people on earth. And why? Because, fast forward into the kingdom, what will happen? We'll be immortality. We'll be given the spiritual bodies. Now, with said spiritual bodies, the priest that I wanted to pull out, it's, I believe in Zephaniah, where it goes into how we will no longer die. The old man with the staff. All right, so Zechariah, Salahia. I confuse it with Zephaniah because they both start with the Z and they kind of sound the same. Zephaniah, Zechariah sound similar. No, but Zechariah, the 8th chapter, verse 4. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, thus saith Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, there shall yet old men and old women dwell in the streets of Jerusalem, and every man at Jerusalem, what's it called, pertaining to the people. What's it called, we believe there's going to be a new city, right? Just like how there's a city known as Jerusalem, there's going to be a new Jerusalem. Hey, because everything finna get burned up, dude, from the ground up. Hey, 2 Peter 3:8, right? What's it called? The great noise, and it shall melt the elements with the fervent heat. Meaning everything will be dissolved. Everything will be as though it had not been. So you see Esau's greatest defeats, these new buildings and whatnot. It will be as though they had not mother flipping been. Right? So, there's gonna be a new city called New Jerusalem for sure. It's gotta be, there has to be. Else is it really Israel without a Jerusalem? Though yes, again we know Jerusalem is a people before it's a place. Therefore when it makes a mention of New Jerusalem descending from the heavens, it pertains to the Israelites, descending from the heaven. From the chariots. New Jerusalem, new, refreshed, kainos, refreshed, refurbished, like new, and we will be renewed. Here it is, we're in the freaking flesh. You finna see us freaking, descend from them chariots, from the Marakabium. Flipping, godly, handsome, beautiful, freaking stunning, miraculous bodies. You can't even freaking fathom it, dude. You just know, the only thing you could associate with the bodies is, the only thing that we could fathom is beauty. That's the only thing you freaking think about. You could only think about beauty. But have you actually seen a spiritual? Hell, I've never seen a spiritual body. I recognize that, right? Obviously we have, what's it called? Going back to the spirit realm. That's also a spiritual body, right? The Apostle Peter made the mention. He was making the mention how he was up in age, and that very soon he would go into the spirit world in a celestial body, in a celestial tabernacle. Right, so yeah, what's it called? We all been to the spirit world. All of us have been to the spirit world. And we've been in those bodies. But here it is, a new line of bodies, a new model, a distinct type of spiritual body. One with genitalia to be able to produce and become a nation. Yeah, because going back to what Yahweh made the mention, what's it called? In the resurrection, you're neither given to the marriage as the angels are. I don't believe angels have genitalia. They have no need. They don't eat. They don't piss. They don't crap. Right? What's it called? When I believe it was Raphael that was guiding Tobit. Tobias. Tobit was the father of Tobias, and on the journey to the woman, the Eve, and they were eating fish. The angel was eating fish. That was a freaking illusion. He wasn't actually eating that. That was an illusion. An illusion. And that's the power of the angels, man. What they possess. And you can't even fathom it. You guys out here talking about, I believe the Bible. Motherfucker, you don't believe crap. There is teleportation written of in the scriptures, dude. Teleportation. You literally have the prophet Habakkuk. I think it was a prophet. Get teleported from a field to the lion den in Babylon, dude. So, and mofos will still be in disbelief. Hey, but as it is written, let the incredulity of them, what's it called? Actually, I'm gonna pull it out. I don't want to roughly paraphrase about the incredulity. It's Second Ezra, right? Second Ezra is the 15th chapter. Yeah. Not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. So you guys out here denying spiritual power. You guys are talking about, what is it called? Our Lord's walking on water. You know why? That's freaking power, dude. Hell, Superman could do that same thing too. He's out here freaking levitating. He's out here floating, dude. But powers are fake. You're stupid as freaking hell. Mofo, Yahweh Shai freaking duplicated food. He duplicated food, turned invisible, levitated, walking on water, right? The Apostle Peter also levitated when he was believing, but then he lacked faith a bit, and then he started sinking. Yahweh Shai was able to freaking control the mother flipping weather, G. Asahel, the brother of Joab, had super speed. The Apostle Peter, when he was as King David, had super speed too. Praise the Lord who maketh my feet like hinds feet. Blessed be the Lord who maketh my hands to break bows of mother flippin' steel. Roughly paraphrase. I have leaped upon great walls. Can you tell me what the freaking hell that is? You have a compound ball right now. A compound ball is made of freaking, metal. You can't freaking break that crap and still break you. It'll break you. It'll break your knuckles. I mean, I reckon you could break a recurve bow. It's made of wood, but it's made of hardwood. It's gonna take some time. But a metal bow, you can't break crap, man. The only way to do that is with freaking spiritual power, super strength. Samson, dude, Shamash had super strength and crazy like energy too. Take down 1,000 dudes, and the Lord was with him, dude. He had a donkey's jaw freaking takes like one of the freaking 4 hits, it freaking shatters instantly. He got down with 1,000 Philistines, dude. Like, was he him? Yes, bro. Right, so teleportation, etc. Anyways, I digress back. I'm getting off track here. I'm literally doing different lessons. I gotta stick to the main. I gotta stick to the main point. Zechariah 8, right? Where was I? Yeah. And every man, there shall yet old men and old women dwell in the streets of Jerusalem, and every man with his staff in his hand for very age. Is that time out? What's it called? Some ancient, elderly-looking people with wrinkles all over. No, hell no, dude. Oh, hell no. We're gonna be ancient, all right, in age, not in appearance. Not in composition. Esau's in the science. Proves that theoretically it's possible to look young forever. But due to the cells, wearing out, they get weak and whatnot, your skin gets loose and wrinkly, loses elasticity and whatnot. That's not going to happen to us in the perfect body. In the perfect body, perfect system, you will have perfect cells. Cells that won't, weaken and wither away. You'll be looking young at the ripe old age of like 5 billion years. And there ain't no end after that. When it makes a mention for Jacob as the beginning of it that followeth after Esau being the end, it'll make the mention how there's going to be another end. There's another, mother flipping end. It's only a beginning. After this current end, right? So first an end, then a beginning. And only a beginning for all eternity. How about that, gang? How about that, gang? So what's it called? Future prophecy, like 12 billion years from now. No. 12 billion years from now, we're still gonna be in the Israelite kingdom, dude. Living the life, dude. You're talking about what's it called? Some wrinkly old, frail, broken back man. No. You're gonna have what's it called? Perfect, upright, freaking, masculine, freaking vascular, freaking muscular, tough, young looking, bugs at the ripe old age of like 12 billion years, freaking 15. Hey, let's come back to this. Let's come back to this topic in 1 quintillion years. Yeah, I'm down. I'm down to speak to Yakim in 1 quintillion years about this specific topic again. Like, oh yeah, remember we're talking about what's it called, immortality? Let's meet up in 1 quintillion years. Let's meet up in 1 quintillion years on the moon. On one of the lunar Marias, in 1 quintillion years, let's meet up to the moon. And that sounds like a freaking, far out, what's it called, psychotic idea. I'm saying psychotic, dude, it's freaking true. Hey, as it is written, and back the second into the 15th chapter, for it is faithful and true. Anyways, I digress back. And the streets, so it's really referring to this, immortality. And the streets of the city shall be full of boys and girls playing in the streets thereof. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, if it be marvelous in the eyes of the remnant of this people in these days, should it also be marvelous in mine eyes, saith the Lord of hosts. Yeah, it's marvelous to me. It's obviously going to be marvelous to the freaking, not the freaking, to the Most High power that even conceptualized the said idea. Right? So I'm not a psychopath, I'm just only reading from a book here. So going back, with us being multiplied and us being, raised for immortality, there's never gonna be premature death. There's never gonna be what's it called, a great grandparent dying at the age of 80. No, what's it called? No more shall it be said, oh, I've only met my great grandpa. I never met my great grandpa. I mean, yeah, people have done that, right? There has been cases and families where, you have a child who's met their great grandparent, but in the kingdom you're gonna meet your great to the power of freaking 25 or whatever grandparent, and they still gonna be young. They're gonna be young as hell. They're gonna look like you. They're gonna look like you, gang. Right? Prophecy. And we know prophecy is a future message, a future event, a future incoming event. Only thing is, this prophecy will never be complete, because it will always happen. Its completion spans eternity. It's an everlasting prophecy that are being multiplied. And with that being said, we're gonna have to hop to a new planet, dude. What's it called? Hey, I'll see you on the Sombrero Galaxy. I'll see you in the Andromeda. I've been dreaming about the Andromeda Galaxy for ages. The Magellanic Clouds, the Magellanic Clouds. What do you call it? Which those are galaxies too. They're more closer to us than Andromeda, but nobody knows about those galaxies. They only know about Andromeda. Due to all the popularity it's getting in science fiction. Hey, I finna see you on what's it called? I finna see you on Kepler 22b. All right, Achim, let's make a promise. Let's meet up on Kepler 22b in 144 years. How about that? Kepler 20. No, I take that back. That's not. Yeah, Kepler 22b. Let's meet up on Kepler 1649c. Let's meet up on Kepler 1649c. That's a promise. Yeah, y'all see me over there in Kepler 1649c. Anyways, so I made the mention how increased provision, honor, and influence are what come of as rewards. So that's what came to mind. Those precepts on the increase. But with honor, Hebrews 5:4 comes to mind. Hebrews 5:4 comes to mind. Okay, so it reads, and no man taketh his honor unto himself, but he that is called of Yahweh, as was Aaron. Right, we finna be called, of Yahweh, Bash, Aaron, was a part of that priesthood. Well, what again? We shall be a royal priesthood, dude. And all Israel will be the priests, not only the Levites. Levites, that was a temporary priesthood. But, if I'm mistaken, it was, as I've been taught, it's with Yahweh Shai, it's raised sacrifice that we became priests. All of us. So again, kings, priests, gods, lords, judges, the masters. You play that game, Detroit Become Human, there's that one mission where you're trying to free the androids at Cyberlife, and then there's an option to vandalize, if you will, the statue with a human commanding an android. And then, you have Marcus make the mention, very soon we'll be the masters. Yeah, we'll be the those androids refer to the Israelites, man. Right? Hey, we'll be the masters, dude. All right, so, also Zephaniah, the 3rd chapter, part of that honor. Part of the honor we shall receive it, because throughout recorded history, what have we been known as? A byword, an astonishment, right? Something of ridicule. The most popular word. I'm not gonna say the most popular word. I gotta check the statistics, but one of the most popular words throughout the freaking globe is the term nigga. You know, you always hear nigga, 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 nigga. You know, and it's what's it called? Yeah, it's a derogatory, right? It's not endearing, right? Instead it fosters what's it called? Mockery. And you got spigot one up, which we use those terms against Jay too, because Jay be wilding out. They be stupid as hell. But what's it called? Just like how we've been backwards. Hey, the Lord's gonna flip it backwards. As it is written. The lowly shall be. Or I'm gonna pull out the precept. So lucky, bear with me. This bullcrap is glitching. Should be put in their stead, right? Proverbs 11:8, the righteous delivered out of trouble, and the wicked cometh in his stead. So it will be on Esau's level, on his status of being grandiose. I mean, sure, you make the mention. You could argue that Obadiah 1 makes the mention now. I have made thee small among the heathen despised. First and foremost, that starts off with the Edomites in America, though. Right, but what's it called? It's still in effect where Esau's the most so-called glamorous when he's the most based of men, actually. Hey, but we're also, it's also twofold because we're also the basest of men. Again, we're made up byword, but again, we'll be put in his stead and being awesome. We're going to be awesome. We're going to be loved, everything, praise, honor, glory. You can think about it. Michael Jackson level, dude. And that's the thing. Michael Jackson, was like the most famous singer on earth. Right, and he's been dead since 2009. He's the most popular freaking artist, the king of pop. The king of freaking pop, dude. And from Elam, the freaking, what's it called? Every nation, they all be bumping freaking Michael Jackson. Right, and how it got out of hand when Michael Jackson came to the town. Everybody pulling up, Michael Jackson. Now here's the thing: Michael Jackson not the elect. All right, he's a 2/3. So if a 2/3 had that much freaking popularity, how much more? Answer me this: how much more the elect men? Very much more, as it is written in the book of Ecclesiasticus, aka the book of Sirach, the 44th chapter, verse 1, which when you flip around the numbers 44, 144,000 serves the prophets, which make up that government. So therefore, you're going to have the apostles, the other apostles, Tahar, Gabar, Arayam, La Bracha, down the bishops, we name it, what's it called? All those elders, all those Achim, all those prophets, they will be praised. I find them endearing, what's it called? I praise those men. Those are great men. We give double honors to the apostles. Double honors, bro. Now that shouldn't be there. So I didn't mean to mock. No, but I'm proving a point. If we give double honors already, that goes to show, they're worthy, dude, and they'll be worthy even more in the kingdom, and all nations will see that, right? The elder apostle Tahar, Gabar, and La Rachan, the great men on that, all those great men will be praised on the mother flipping daily, dude. They wake up in their freaking royal chambers. The first thing they see is a maid talking about, "Good morning, sunshine. Good morning, my lord. Massa. Point blank, period." So that's gonna be like, men on this side, they wish to wake up to those words. It's gonna get to the point where we're gonna be tired of those words. The men will be tired of those words, but actually they're never gonna get tired. Never take it back. But it's gonna be the most overused phrases ever to them, and that's a freaking fact. That's a prophecy. That is a prophecy. Imagine. God, if y'all seen Welcome to America or however that movie's called, the first one, with I forget his name, that guy who played Donkey and Dr. Dolittle, that Drake, I forget his name. You, damn, dude, you see what happened? The woman was like, "I'm made to serve you, whatever you want." How about flipping that? I can't even speak to. It's just, Lord willing, dude. We could only, time will only mother flipping tell, dude. But, that's going to happen. Anyways, with respect, let us not praise him as men and our fathers that begat us. Right, the Lord hath wrought great glory by them through his great power from the beginning. Yes, you best believe your mother flipping ours. We finna be praising those men, dude. Right? Did not the Apostle Gilbert make the mention how your women need to look at you like they see the Lord. See, so those men will be given praise. All those that stood bold for this truth, those prophets of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai. I will be praising them, those prophets. Great men, beautiful men. What's it called? You interact with some, nigga down the street. They look wicked dark as hell. You interact with the prophet, dude. Whole different atmosphere, whole different freaking lighting, dude. You feel it. You feel them righteous spirits, dude. It's just like how you would have freaking feel them wicked spirits when you're like in a different town. You'll be able to feel them righteous spirits, emanating, interacting with those men, dude. When I speak to those men, I think about saturation, color. I think about fruits. I think about a palace. I think about a golden palace. I think about all these things. Anyways, such as did bear rule and their kingdoms, men renowned for their power, giving counsel by their understanding and declaring prophecy. What comes to mind? The prophet Daniel. He was one of the top men of Nebuchadnezzar. He was one of the top men of Darius the Mede, of Cyrus the Great. You cannot lie. You cannot lie. What's it called? Zorobabel, if I pronounced that right. Zorobabel. He was one of the guards that did that. The letter contest, where he made the mention how women are the strongest, and above all, truth is great. To roughly paraphrase, dude was a great man, right? And he was one of the leaders that led the exiles, back to the land. After that 68, 69, 67 year period, because it wasn't the firm 70 years of slavery in Babylon. For a bit of historical backdrop. I digress, though. Leaders of the people by their councils. Jeremiah was a leader of the people. He was one of, King Josiah's men. Yeah, Josiah had his moments, but he was a righteous king. And also what comes to mind is Nathan the prophet and Gad the seer. Seer is a prophet, talking about the 1 Samuel 9, it makes a mention now. For he that is aforetime known as a prophet, or he that is professed the prophet was aforetime known as a seer, right? Because they saw visions, they saw future events in their dreams, visions, right? A seer is a prophet. The Apostle John is a prophet. He is a seer. His books were written about his visions. All right, so the King David, he took advice from Nathan and Gad, those men of the Lord, dude. Real flippant facts, and by their knowledge of the learning and meat for the people, wise and eloquent, and are their instructions. Yeah, what's it called? Samuel before Saul was anointed king. Samuel was like the big lead. He's allocated to be the last judge. Which before the king, the monarchy, you had the judgeship, where you had Othniel and those men like Samson, judge the people, but not judicially, but more so just leadership, right? I digress though. Zephaniah, the 3rd chapter, verse. Was it 8 and 9? Zephaniah 3 and 19. Behold, at that time I will do all that afflict thee, and I will save her that hated halteth, and gather her that was driven out, and I will get them praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame. At that time will I bring you again, even in the time that I gather you, for I will make you a name and praise among all the people of the earth. When I turn back your captivity before your eyes, say the Lord. How about that? So, again, honor, right? And I made the mention, increase provision, honor, and influence. Influence, influence. It ties the power. It ties the power because you're able to control the masses. And the other apostle part was going into that. What's it called? The slaves. It's not a wicked thing. It's a righteous thing, and it's due soon. It don't matter if what's it called? EU nations have started to acknowledge, transatlantic slavery. They're still going to change. But it's a fulfillment of prophecy. Going back to, I believe it was Obadiah makes a mention how, for shame shall cover thee for thy brother's sake, right? For thy brother Jacob's sake. It don't matter jack shite. You still going in chains, motherfucker. As it written, yeah. Prepare a slaughter on the children for the iniquities of the fathers. So in the kingdom, you're gonna be having what's it called, little slaves be like, but why are you doing this to us, mofo? Because it's freaking prophecy, and you guys deserve it. And also, you guys are your forefathers. Given the fact that time after the precepts makes mention now, the children shall come back to the third and fourth generation, or the fathers will come back to the third and fourth generation. So in essence, I could be my great 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 grandfather. I don't even freaking know. I don't remember. But that's how it works. So you are your fathers, your forefathers, in the reincarnation again. Anyways, influence. I made the mention of influence. What comes to mind is the book of Psalms, the 68th chapter, 35. O God, thou art terrible. O thou God, thou art terrible out of thy holy places. The God of Israel is he that giveth strength and power unto his people. Blessed be God, right? Influence being power. He that giveth strength and power unto his people, the nation of Israel. I'm going to go into the NIV, but this time start at verse 34. Proclaim the power of God, whose majesty is over Israel, whose power is in the heavens. You, God, are awesome in your sanctuary. The God of Israel gives power and strength to his people. Praise be to God. Not all people, his people, right? What's they called? Which we know is again, Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And if you a Moabite, proclaiming Yahweh Shemel Shai, you're not a Moabite, you just look like a so-called Moabite. You was really an Israelite, dude, because again, when Jake all over the we've been scattered throughout the motherfucking planet, dude. You got Jake all over Asia, Africa, the Americas, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, New Zealand, I reckon Oceania too, Micronesia. You got Jake in Micronesia, Greenland, right? All over the mother flipping place. Anyways, going back to what Confucius said, Prince cultivator. Yeah, what's it called, Prince? As the Achim make the mention, this is kingship training grounds, right? We are being groomed to be kings. Now let me ask you something. What is a son of a king? A prince, right? The prince eventually becomes what? King. And who is that great king? You may ask, Yahweh Shai, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. But above that, you have the Most High Spirit, the great King. Right? God damn, yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Psalms 47 and 2. For the Lord Most High, for the Lord Yahweh Most High is terrible. He is a great King over all the earth. And as it is written, he ruleth in the kingdoms of men. Why? Because the king starts in the hand of the Lord, dude. Like, so obviously he's gonna be ruling in those kingdoms. Anyways, if he's a great king, and time back this to Deuteronomy, I believe Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter, if I am not mistaken, it makes the mention how we are his inheritance, we are his portion, and likewise he to us. I believe it was Psalm 16, where King David was all like, "The Lord is my portion." Yeah, how about Shemel Shai is my portion? He's my inheritance. How about that? You got mofos out here with Dagon and freaking Molech. I don't give a damn about those freaking false gods. But I have a true God. Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. That's my dad. Hey, Dad. That's my... You know how good it feels to... You know how good it feels to proclaim the fact that he is our dad? My dad. I feel elevated. I feel elevated saying that. Now there is power to saying the Lord's my dad. How much more power is it to even behold his name, to be given, granted the ability, the privilege. It is a privilege to hold his name. Much more. Yahweh. Yahweh Shai. Thunder. Thunder striking. Thunder, baby. Thunder. Thunder. Lightning. God damn. Yahweh Shai. There is power in those names. When I think of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai, I think of Dad. In the name of my brother. Big bro. They got that same Big Brother is watching for freaking, that Orwellian book, 1988 or whatever you call it. I forget. I read that book before. I gotta repeat it again. You got Big Brother. Listen, I don't want no freaking Esau Big Brother. No, I need Yahweh. I mean, technically, he is our Big Brother, right? He's the one the first one to come out the womb. He's older to us by a few minutes. But the only Big Brother I want is Yahweh Shai, dude. Plain and simple. Plain and simple, goddammit. Plain and simple, guys. Anyways. He's a great king. And if we are a king, and we are the sons of God, his children, we are the princes that Confucius speaks about. Confucius, let but a prince, let but an Israelite man cultivate virtue. People flock to him. What comes to mind with that? Proverbs 29:2. And who wrote the book of Proverbs, right? What's it called? Yahweh Shai, when he was as King Solomon. Yahweh Shai wrote this book, right? Yahweh Shai wrote Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, right? The Songs of Solomon. He wrote, what's it called? Some of the Psalms, if I'm not mistaken. The Wisdom of Solomon. And I reckon other works that have been lost, right? Because we know there are certain books mentioned in the scriptures which are not, existing. They died. They went extinct. And they will be revived, right? Those same thoughts, word for word, verbatim, in the kingdom, they will come back. Because 144,000 was the prophets. They best believe, they've definitely written books. They just been lost. And they finna be written and come back in the K. The big K, the big kingdom, dude. I ain't talking about no goddamn K. I'm talking about the freaking kingdom. All right, this is the book of Proverbs, the 29th chapter, verse 2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Right? And what comes to mind is the movie Barbie from 2023, the one with Margot Robbie, or whatever her name is. So you see how when the patriarchy is established by yours truly, Ken, the women, they're happy serving the man. But then when the matriarchy is, reestablished, all of a sudden the Barbies are all moody and whatnot. Well, what's it called? There is a desire, an innate desire in humanity to keep the law. And with humanity, I'm talking about all nations. In the kingdom, the nations will keep the laws of the Lord. They will keep the laws. That's in Isaiah the 2nd chapter. Right, and also in the book of Mike, if I am not mistaken. And they're gonna see how beautiful it is to keep the law when they see us in our glorious estate. Right? Hey, is it not written in the book of Deuteronomy? I believe it was the 8th chapter or the 4th chapter. I believe it was the 4th chapter. Was it not written? We shall be magnified in the law. What's it called? Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, verse 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my power commanded me, that you should do so in the land whither ye go, to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what nation is there so great who hath Yahweh so nigh unto them, as the Lord our powers in all things that we call upon him for? And what nations there so great that hath statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law which I have set before you this day? They're going to keep the law in the kingdom when they see us in our glorious magnified state. Right? People naturally trust someone whose life is ordered too. And when you're orderly with the wisdom and knowledge, as is written, wisdom and knowledge should be the stability of thy time, and also the integrity, those shall guide them. Totally paraphrase. I believe it was Ecclesiastes 11:3. So when you're ordered, people naturally trust you, and they're gonna keep the law too, right? So a person of virtue brings fairness, consistency, restraint, wisdom, and precepts that come to mind: Proverbs 1:1-3, Micah 6:8, James 2:4, Romans 2:4. I realize this lesson is very long, and I'm afraid for a lack of space, so I'm gonna be quick here. I'm gonna end it out back in Proverbs 22:4, because that's that precept sums it up. By humility, the serve the Lord, and the fear of the Lord, are riches and honor and life. As the elder Apostle Gabar put it, we will have slaves, women, power, spiritual power, and power to influence. We'll be immortal gods. Dude. Oh my God, rest. Everything we ever desired. You know what I desire? I like K-pop. I like pop. Why? Because, most of them, female singers, and their pleasant voices, catch my attention. I love women. I want women in the kingdom, and their reward that will come of it. Do not the men of the Lord make claims. I claim her, this and that. Them Chicago bros, they claimed everybody, dude. They done claimed everybody. What's it called? Yeah. So, claims, it'd be claims. And the pre-orders, maybe pre-orders. You pre-ordering it before it even happens. That's great. The ability to even do that. And the only way, a possibility that you would receive it is by having that faith. Lord, will you receive, against Lord's will. So, you hope the Lord, holds on to that claim you made. So there's that. Lord will listen. We'll say the fine to the next one. Do say shalom.